Look, The Wrestler. Every time we discuss sports movies, I would say The Wrestler is probably the second or third most popular film that comes up as
Oh,
a
wow.
sports movie. You wrote this magnificent film, and it is a wonderful, wonderful film. What is it about it that has this enduring power?
I don't like. It's funny ever since The Wrestler. When you have success in the movie business, you start getting scripts and you start getting opportunities along those same lines. So after The Wrestler, I got a lot of offers to write sports-themed movies, and they always tended to be kind of inspirational, underdog stories, and that's not really what The Wrestler is. I just think I don't think of it as a sports movie. I think of it as sort of it's a dark character, very intimate character study that just happens to be set in the world of sports. To me, it's much more of a piece. I would put it in the company of sort of those 70s character study movies. Midnight Cowboy, and that's one of my favorite movies. That's actually 1969, but it's more of a character study than I think it is a sports movie. It certainly doesn't. It's not one of those, Rocky, Rudy. You win the big game in the end, and you walk out of the theater feeling good. I don't know. I just didn't approach it. I'm very cliche. I'm sort of cliche averse by nature. So maybe on some subconscious level, as I was writing it, I just was trying to avoid all the things that typically make a good sports movie.
You were deeply involved with The Onion. You were editor-in-chief there for a while, and you were responsible for the film, The Onion movie. American comedians don't have a big problem with political correctness. In fact, they really like pushing against political correctness. And that allows you to deal very honestly with issues of sex, of race, of politics, and so forth. In this country, we have an enormous issue with political correctness, where comedians are often afraid to deal with certain topics in fear of the adverse reaction that they might get, for the fear of offending people. Can you just tell us quickly about the principles of comedy that you follow, that you observe, that allows for an open discussion of topics through comedy? That's a tough question.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Australia had America is very, very much a country gripped by political correctness, but it fortunately hasn't really spilled over into, I would say, our comedians, and in some ways, comedy is sort of the last bastion for really, really free speech. I guess I don't know how to answer that. I guess for me, I think there's no. Back when I was at The Onion, people used to, probably the number one question people would ask us is, is there a line? How far is too far? And I just always, we never thought of things in terms of a line. If something is funny, it's defensible.
Okay, I can give you just a quick example. In The Onion film, you have a sketch that's based on the How to Host a Murder game, it's called How to Host a Rape. That sketch could never be made in Australia.
Oh, really?
You would have outrage. You would have talkback shows blocked out with calls screaming for the heads of the people responsible for that. So that's an example of something that couldn't be made here.
That's interesting. I don't know. We just have, maybe it's, we have, I'm trying to think of what the pillars of American political incorrectness in comedy are. There's South Park. If you live in a country where there's a South Park, it kind of makes it safe. They're kind of making it safe for the rest of us in a way. There's South Park. There's Chris Rock. There's
Family
probably,
Guy, Louis C.K., people like that.
Family Guy, yeah. I don't know if you guys get Howard Stern down there, but Howard Stern is certainly in that tradition. And it goes back all the way back to Richard Pryor and Lenny Bruce. Comedy has always been kind of a haven for countercultural thought. I'm sorry that you guys don't have that. I didn't know. I mean, comedy is kind of where. Comedy and The Daily Show, and now we have all sorts of other shows, John Oliver and Samantha Bee, and comedy is kind of in difficult times, which these are right now for many Americans. comedy is kind of where we turn to make sense of it all. Like, I can't imagine if we had, of course, things that are just patently offensive for the sake of offensiveness. Those things usually just aren't funny. I think you can be funny. I think it's okay to be funny just for funny's sake. I think you can also be funny and make a point at the same time. But if you're just trying to make a point, that usually comes off very sort of didactic and heavy-handed, and that doesn't work. So, for me personally, if it's funny, then it's probably if it's funny, there must be some kernel of truth in it, and if there's some kernel of truth in it, it must be defensible.